We start conference play this week against a team I think that is drastically improved in UNLV. I think they've, even though they're in the same formations, I think they've decided on a philosophy on offense. They're playing pretty good defense, and on offense, they're running the ball really, really well. So I think they've settled on a plan, and I think they're getting better as they go. And they had a big win last week against Fresno State, and so we expect a very competitive football game.
Rocky, what do you see in Dalton Sneed, the quarterback, and two-headed running backs?
In Dalton Sneed, he is a great athlete that throws well on the run and can make things happen himself. If the receiver's not open, he takes off with it, and he makes a lot of people miss. He breaks a lot of tackles. He's hard to bring down.
How about the running backs?
Well, the running backs are quality guys. I mean, if you give them a gap or a hole or a seam, they're going to get real positive yards. Both of them are fast enough. If they get out in the open field, they're probably going to take it the distance.
Does it open your eyes when you see a quarterback at 97 yards?
Well, after I saw that play, I thought that was one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen. He should have been tackled probably 2 or 3 times behind the line of scrimmage and one for a safety. And then he outran everybody. That was pretty impressive.
Says a little bit about his resolve.
I think it shows a lot about his belief. I think he believes when he's running with the ball, he's not a quarterback. I think he believes he's a running back. You know, he's not looking for a place to slide or fall down. He's looking to score a touchdown.
What about their offense? They're a fast-paced team, right?
They're not as fast-paced as some. I mean, they line up in spread formations and they stay at the line of scrimmage, but a lot of times they look how the defense is lined up, and then they look to the sidelines for that play's okay, or they look for a new play. So they're not real hurry up. By today's standards, they're not.
You mentioned how they look to the sideline and stuff to see how the defense looks. The linebackers, whenever they're timing their blitz the past couple of weeks, it would be a little bit before the snap, and Cal did it, and this past weekend it happened too, where they looked like they might have changed the play or they motioned someone. Is that a concern heading against a team like UNLV that does that?
Yeah, I think that everybody in the spread tries to do that. They try to read what you're doing on defense, and they try to call the perfect play. When they look to the sidelines, our guys look to the sidelines, and we can change the defense too. So, interesting point about blitzing, though. That's different philosophies from different coaching ranks. Some people will blitz on the snap. In other words, they won't give away the blitz, and they blitz on the snap, and they're counting on the coverage to be good enough that the blitz will eventually get there. We're of the opposite thought process. We want to hit the line of scrimmage on the snap so the quarterback knows the pressure's coming right from the start, which means he has to get rid of it quickly, or they better have really good protection up there for him to hold the ball. Now, I say that, and it's caused us problems this year that it hadn't caused in the past, because they're stepping back there and they're throwing it deep and they're catching it, where normally we would make more plays on the balls and he wouldn't throw it quite as good. So we can argue that coaching stuff all the time if you want. I'd rather talk about coaching than anything else.
Rocky, talking about coaching with all your experience in the game versus kind of balancing that versus who you had coming back in a personnel way, how realistic was it to go undefeated knowing how difficult a proposition that is, and what message, now that piece of the puzzle's gone and not a possibility, what do you say?
I'm glad you asked, because there wasn't one person on our team or one person on our coaching staff that said that we were going undefeated. We said that we want to, and that's our goal, but that's every college football team's goal at the start of the season is to win every game. You didn't hear one of our players say, we are going to win every game. You did not hear one of our coaches say, we are going to win every game. What you heard from the media was, if they don't win every game, it's an unsuccessful season. And that is a ridiculous statement. That's a ridiculous statement. There wasn't one undefeated team in college football last year. Okay, so now that I got that off my chest, we're looking forward to playing this week. I think it was It was an unrealistic expectation, even though that's what you believe you can do and that's what you want to do. There's a whole bunch of them out there, not a whole bunch. There's a few out there that are still undefeated. Guess what? They want to go undefeated. And if they're lucky, there'll be 1 or 2 teams in the country that go undefeated. Normally, there's not. But there'll probably be 1 or 2 teams that go undefeated this year out of 128 teams. So I think the goal was normally unrealistic, but every football team that ever steps on the field wants to win every game. And that's your plan, is to win every game.
How concerned are you about this defense right now you went into the last game relatively healthy and feeling pretty good and came out of the game with at least 2 key injuries, maybe a third or so. And you've given up, I think, 110 points in the last 3 games, and I know that there's a lot of variables that go into that, but that doesn't sound like the San Diego State defense, certainly not the one we saw last year and at the beginning of at least the first game this year. So what has happened, or what are you noticing that has made this change?
I don't think anything's happened. We've given up more long passes than we did last year. And if you'll go look at the first 4 games of last year, and there was a lot of that same thing that was going on. In fact, our statistics are better this year than they were after 4 games of last year. Okay? Now, you can say we had experienced players coming back, which we did. We had inexperience on the defensive line, and the whole game starts up front. On both offense and defense, the whole game starts up front. Does not mean we're not disappointed that we're not making more plays in coverage. We should be making more plays in coverage. And I tell people all the time that if it was always in man coverage, guess what? We wouldn't play man coverage anymore. But a lot of the deep throws have been against man, and a lot of the deep throws have been against zone. So it's not the coverage, it's the execution of the coverage. Sometimes players are on and some players aren't on. So far, our secondary hasn't played very well. That doesn't mean they won't the rest of the year.
How much of that, though, has to do with you mentioned it, that your defensive front is not as experienced as it was a year ago, and you're going to be without Barrett, at least, it sounds like this week.
Yeah, I don't.
How do you make up for that?
You don't. You don't make up for if you lose at the line of scrimmage. I'm not saying we're losing at the line of scrimmage all the time, but if you lose at the line of scrimmage on offense, you cannot run the ball. If you lose the line of scrimmage on defense and can't rush the passer get to a passer with a 4-man rush, guess what? They're going to throw the heck out of the ball. As long as the quarterback can throw it and the receivers can catch it, they're going to throw the heck out of it. So you have the choice of taking your lumps, or you have the choice of blitzing them and trying to force the issue. We blitz and try to force the issue. But now the onus comes back on the defensive backs playing well.
After the Cal game, you mentioned how important the crowd was, the size of it, the energy, and what that gave you late in that game, especially. If you had that winning streak still intact, I'm sure over time, another win, a little bit inching up the rankings, that translates into a few thousand more every game that might come and watch San Diego State. Now that you don't have that streak, what would you tell fans who are kind of on the fence, not your loyal ones that are always here, but those people who are looking at this as a special season and everything that you have going on as a program right now? What do you tell that group that is kind of on the fence about whether to come to the next game or the game after?
I think that the games that we've played over the last year, I guess, calendar year, have all been fun and exciting to watch. Obviously, we're not going to get the fans that thought we should win every game. You're not going to get those fans. But most fans come to cheer for a team that's fun to watch and has a good chance to win. I think we're fun to watch, and I think we have a good chance to win. So most football fans will come and watch that. Now, obviously, the ones that were on the bandwagon because they thought we were going to win every game, they're not showing up. But that's the case in every sport at every level.
Rocky, can you talk about the growth of Christian Chapman and how important it is for him now to show resiliency after his turnover He's lost, he's taken sacks. How hard is this for him now?
I don't know specifically how hard it is for Christian, but I think it's hard for every one of our players that don't, they have high expectations for themselves and they don't perform well. They fight maybe a little loss of confidence. They fight a little loss of belief that they can't make a mistake. I mean, in reality, these might be the best thing ever happened to us, in reality, because I think that our players maybe lost a little bit of an edge because it's been a long time since someone really knocked them around and beat them up. And I think he's just one like the others.
Oh, sorry. Jay Posner on Saturday night, Jay Posner from the Union Tribune tweeted out after the loss. He said, "You've done some great things for the program, but blame for the loss has to start with you." What's your response to that?
I think I already responded to that, but I will again. I think anytime your team doesn't play well, it's as much a coaching problem as it is a team's problem. Any time you don't play well, it's a combination of the coaching wasn't good enough and the players didn't play good enough. And I'm not talking about X's and O's. These young people are not pro athletes. So as long as the X and O's are okay, you're not being beat because you're not putting them in the right position, it comes down to them executing. And our players execute very well. When they don't execute very well, I think that's a coaching issue. And it might not be a physical issue. It might be an emotional issue. Now we're talking about the key to coaching at this level more than probably any other level. You're at the level that it is your job to get them emotionally ready to play, but they're at the age group that they question everything and think they know a lot of things. And sometimes they listen and heed what you're telling them, and sometimes they don't. They think they know better. It's the same as teachers, and it's the same as parents. Sometimes you try to parent them or coach them, and they respond in the way you expect them to, and they have success. And sometimes, guess what? They don't respond the way you expect them to, and they don't have success.
Do you think with the start of conference play, that will kind of emotionally get them ready starting this week?
I don't think it has anything to do with the conference play. I don't think it has anything to do with who we're playing. I think it all has to do with how we're going to react and how we're going to perform and how we're going to handle disappointment and expectations.
Rocky, going back to the notion that people thought you were supposed to win every game until you apparently left, has that always been part of the bargain in this game, or has this age of kind of instant gratification changed all of that?
No, I think it's all based on the community. Obviously, some communities have higher expectations than other communities. My experience is that pro towns maybe judge a college football team like a pro team a lot more than a small college town would. And a small college town is a lot more accepting maybe of young people not performing as people expected them to, and a pro town is much more critical, and the expectations are such. Now, that's just my observation. I don't have any psychological or scientific proof of that. But I've coached in both small college towns and I've coached in large cities.
How are you looking back on, now that you've lost 2 years in a row to South Alabama, this year's loss being a little bit closer than last year's, how are you reflecting on that? Like, if you play them next year or something, what has to change?
we have to play better. I mean, I think what happens sometimes is people don't realize that the other team has really good athletes. I think South Alabama is physically the best football team we played against this year. They are very inconsistent. They have good days and bad days like most college teams do. And when they have good days, they can beat anybody, and if they have bad days, they get beat. And most college football teams are that way. There's very few college football teams nowadays that can have a bad day and still win.
Have you decided what you're gonna do about your long snapper situation? Will you open that up for other players, or do you stick with what you have right now?
Well, we actually have, since training camp started, we've actually had 6 different guys practicing snapping. Obviously, the best one was the one that was doing it. The second best one is the one that came in to the game and did it for about 3/4 of the game, almost 3/4 of the game. He snapped for punts. We tried a bigger guy in there on extra points, and that didn't work, so he started snapping for the extra points too, and field goals. We have one other guy that we have confidence in, so those 2 are battling it out this week to see who will snap in the games.
Is that Flores?
No, it's Mark Ellis. It's a walk-on wide receiver.
Rock, I got a historical question about UNLV, since you spent so much time in this conference. Tony Sanchez has a pretty good track record of where he's been, what he's accomplished. Obviously, he's building this thing. Were you surprised, dating all the way back to when they hired John Robinson, who many thought was going to flip it like Tark did? Were you surprised Vegas has had such a big economy?
I think what I'm not surprised when anybody is successful, and I'm not surprised when anybody has a hard time, because if people understand the way this works on a college campus is there's hundreds of people on the college campus that have a lot to do with you having a chance for success or not having a chance for success. From your equipment room to your training room, to the admissions office, to the academic people upstairs. There's thousands of people that interact with your players daily. It's not pro football, even though people want to make college football like pro football. It's not pro football. There's so many people involved for a program to be successful and win on the field. If there's any deficiency in any one of those areas, your chances of winning are almost none. And that's just the way it works. So it doesn't surprise me. I think that Tony's doing a great job. I think he's going to get it done. But mostly it's because the community, all you got to do is get on their website and see the brand new football-only facility they're going to build on their campus. They've got half the money pledged already. It's supposed to be done by next spring. So I think he has the community behind him, and I think that they're going to make it such that he has a really good chance to be successful. And I don't think I've seen that at UNLV in the past, no matter who the coach was.
He's got a lot of young guys playing right now, Rocky. Is that, I mean, that's either by necessity or design at this point, but does it speak well to what they might have in the future?
Oh, yeah. I think he's done a nice job of recruiting, and you have to mature players in your program. Mm-hmm. I think most of it is the support he's getting. People think you just trot out there and put a football team out there. You know, we don't get to draft players. We have to sell players on what we've got. And sometimes other people have more to sell. And it's an interesting concept, because now we're getting back to the original answer. People want to treat this in a pro town like a pro team. We're not a pro football team. We've got young people that go to class. They're distracted every single day. They're distracted with girlfriends and family issues too. I mean,
Do you think this town treats it like a pro team?
I think so, yeah. More so than if you were in a small college town, yeah.
You've talked today with us about expectations a little bit and your thoughts on those. Do you have those kind of conversations with your team? And if you do, what do those conversations sound like, or what do you say in relation to that?
We communicate with our players every single day about a lot of different issues. And I truly believe this, that every coach that has what he believes is sufficient talent talks to his team about winning every game. But I think the very best thing about high school and college athletics is life experiences. Guess what? Nobody in this world has a good day every day. And everybody in this world has some really bad things happen to them, a lot worse than losing a football game. But athletes learn that when things go wrong and you disappoint everybody, that the only way to react is get up and go after it again. And guess what? You're going to go after it again, and there's a good chance you're going to get knocked down again. That's the best thing about athletics at the high school level and the college level, is they teach you that you overcome bad things that happen to you. And the best way to do it in college athletics is, guess what? It's not life-threatening that you lose a game, even though some people would like to make it seem like that.
What did you hear back from your guys, though, in the last 48 hours? I mean, were you, I don't want to say pleased, but I mean, were you at least upbeat based on their response to losing that game, or what you've heard so far?
They haven't done much talking, which is common. I mean, they're disappointed, they're upset, they were kind of getting used to being treated special, and guess what? They're not special anymore. So our team, I don't know how other teams react, but our team is pretty quiet. So they're not saying a whole lot. Now, I've talked to them a lot about a whole bunch of different things. Some of it upbeat, some of it not. But there's the other good thing about playing athletics. Guess what? We got a game this week. We get to play again. And if we win, we'll be a whole lot happier than we are right now. If we lose, everybody will say it's the coaching.
So you're going to forgive us, as you said, you could go 12-0 and be in New Year's Day bowl game, or are you going to hold it?
No, I think that's what we wanted to do too. Since we actually lost the game, I can't believe the overreaction to us losing. Let's put it that way. Because not one team last year went undefeated. Not one. There's 128 of them, and some of them have a lot more to sell than we do.
So what does that say about the game itself? What does it say about football that it's that hard?
I think at the college and pro level is that it's so close in athletic ability. I think the top level teams of the non-Power 5 leagues can beat anybody in the Power 5 on the right day. I think the Power 5 has some advantages that they win most of those matchups, but I think pro football, the talent level is so close. Whenever they play, you see nothing but close games. College, you have some that are way up there and some that are way down, but the large majority in the middle have sufficient talent that you can beat anybody on any day and you can lose to anybody on any day. So I think it's gotten more and more competitive that way. You reduce the number of scholarships, what they did a long time ago. It took a long time to take effect, but you reduce the number of scholarships and all of a sudden the talent level is fairly close. And the teams that don't get anybody hurt have the best chance. But it's so close that you have a lot more close games than maybe people think you should. That should make it fun for fans, right? Should.
You need to get the ball to DJ more in the passing game. I guess the quote is always out in space, but it's pretty hard to find space for him because there's always people guarding him and watching him. But would you like to, he caught a lot more passes on last year than he has so far this year.
Yeah, I think we're trying to get it to him. I think you have to give other teams credit for making sure they know where he is at all times. And I'll just give an example. We have a star category. In coverages, we have somebody that is a robber or a free guy. And if you have a star guy out there, that guy's not a robber anymore and he's not free anymore. He double teams the guy you want double team. Okay? That's how we do it. Other people do it different ways. Well, they know where DJ is at all times. So when he's out in the slot or he's out there at wide receiver trying to run routes, there's a lot of attention paid to him. So trying to throw him the ball is a lot harder than it sounds because they know where he is and they're making sure they've got enough people over there to try to defend him, which should open up. So, I mean, on the coaching ranks, it should open up something else for us to take advantage of. We have to throw the ball better than we've been throwing it too.